Technology is fantastic when it works, and it's extremely painful when it doesn't. All right, so today's topic is going to be just about parents, because I think a lot of parents have a lot of questions. So we're going to start there, and we're going to really talk about what are the common mistakes that we find that parents generally make. All right, so the one thing that you should really understand is that every amount of time that your child is awake is a learning moment for your child. Okay, whether you think they're learning something or they're not learning something, they are in fact learning something. Okay? They're either learning the right things or the wrong things. There is no learning that's occurring. Kids are either learning the right thing or the wrong thing in any given situation. And most of the time, parents accidentally promote the wrong behaviors in their kids and accidentally ignore their kids' good behaviors. An example from my own life is like, oh, maybe I'm hard at work on my computer. Okay, I'm typing away, I got a lot of work, gotta finish this work. Okay, and my son comes up to me and nicely just taps me on the shoulder. It's like, Dad. And I'm like, I'm too busy. I gotta finish this. I gotta type. And he taps me on the shoulder, Dad. Okay, I'm typing away. He tapped me again. I still kind of ignore him, and then typing away. And then he's like, Dad, right? I'm like, what? Okay, all right. Now that is a perfect example of how we accidentally ignore good behaviors. And the good behaviors he's demonstrating is being calm, tapping on my shoulder, trying to get my attention in the right ways, right? And so we tend to accidentally ignore the good behaviors until they do something big and inappropriate. And then we give the attention for when they do those kind of things. And by doing that, we're promoting those behaviors more and more. That's one of the most important things to really understand is whether you intend to or you don't intend to teach your child something, they're learning through the interactions with you. Okay. And when you're taking a look at all of those kind of situations, what you want to take a look at is like, oh, in any interaction that I have with my child, what is it that I'm teaching them right now? Am I teaching them to engage in the appropriate behaviors? Am I giving enough attention to them when they're doing the things right? And when they're doing some things wrong, when I take a look at both when they do it right and when they do it wrong, how much more attention do they get when they do something wrong? How much more energy are you expressing to the child when they're doing the wrong thing as opposed to when you're doing the right thing? And most of the time, parents heavily rely on giving this negative attention for the misbehaviors, and a lot of times ignore all the appropriate and good behaviors. Now, so one of the most common mistakes that parents make is they accidentally train their kids to be more resilient with their inappropriate or misbehaviors. So let's say that your child screams and they cry and they yell, they engage in a wide variety of misbehaviors because they want a cookie. Okay, they want that cookie and it's close to dinner time. You're like, no, I'm not going to give them that cookie. And you're like, okay, fine, I'm not going to give you this cookie. So they're screaming. You're like, oh, okay, but I'm not going to give it to you. So they escalate, so they try to run toward the cookie, try to grab the cookie. They do all of these kind of behaviors, and then at some point in time there, you're like, oh, enough is enough. I can't take it anymore. Fine, here's your cookie. Okay, I'm going to give you the cookie. All right. So that immediately calms the child down. Why? Because they have the cookie that they wanted, things like that. Now, what does the child learn from that situation? Number one, the child learns whatever my parent tells me, they don't really mean it. Like they told me no before, but you know what? I can still get it. Second thing they learn is I can wear my parents down. Okay, I just need to demonstrate the right behaviors. And you know what happened here? oh, I need to scream at the top of my lungs. I need to go after the thing that I wanted. I had to do it for at least 20 minutes before they broke down. So the next time I really want something, guess what I'm going to have to do? I'm going to have to scream at the top of my lungs. I'm going to have to cry. I'm going to have to run after the thing that I want. And I have to do it for at least 20 minutes, at least, before they'll give in to me. So now, like all parents, sometimes you know you're doing the wrong thing. Sometimes you know, like, I shouldn't have given into that cookie. And so you're like, okay, the next time that they want a cookie, I'm not going to give them that cookie. You know I'm doing the wrong thing, so I'm going to not give them that cookie. Okay, so the next time the child wants something and you tell them no, and then they engage in these behaviors again. Okay, now you're like, okay, I can tough it out. I can do this. So you pass 20 minutes, you pass 30 minutes, right? By 35 minutes, you're like, oh, I can't stand it anymore. And then you go and you give in to the child and give them what they want. What did the child learn in that situation? Well, they learned, like, I can still wear parents down. I can ultimately get what I want. But now I know if I really want something, it's no longer 20 minutes that I have to commit myself to. Now it's more like 35 minutes I have to commit myself to. And maybe if I threw in spitting, if I threw in some excess additional behaviors, it's more likely that you're going to give in and give me what I want. And so in that way, we're accidentally training our kids to have more endurance than us, to be able to wear us down and to be able to be successful at wearing us down. What that means is that for yourselves, what you want to learn to do is once you tell the child something, no matter how difficult it is, no matter how challenging it is, no matter how much hair you pull out, hearing your child cry, seeing your child engage in a wide variety of misbehaviors, you have to be strong enough not to cave into those demands. One of the first lessons that you'll have to learn is to pick the battles that you're going to fight, okay? Because we all lead very busy lives, and sometimes I'm not feeling all that well. Sometimes I'm just tired from a long day. For whatever reason, sometimes there are some battles that I don't want to fight. Okay? So what you learn is if you don't have the energy to fight those battles, you don't have the energy to follow through, just give in right at the very beginning. Don't even tell them no, just give them what they want, so that in the long term, they learn whenever you say something, you mean it, and that you're never saying and telling them things that you do not mean. The more things you tell them that are incorrect, that they are able to bypass and not respect what you say, the harder of a battle you're going to have to wage over the long term. Do not give instructions to your child. Do not make demands of your child that you have no intention of following through with. And be honest about that. Like, oh, I just had the worst day, and you see your child and they do something that you want them, like, oh, I want them to pick up that item they threw on the floor. I want them to do that. But don't give them the instruction if you just don't have the energy to go run after them, bring them back to where they misbehaved, make them clean up or make them do it. Just don't bother, because it's better for you over the long term, because when you do follow through and you do make demands of your child and follow through with them, they learn to listen to you. The more often you make demands of your child and you don't follow through, the more they learn not to respect anything that you say and to not listen to your instructions. Choose your battles wisely, okay? What that means is that if you want the child to clean something up, right? Like, oh, my child, like, oh, gets these toys, he puts it everywhere, he gets these books, now everything's everywhere, and I want them to clean up. Well, first off, if it's a complete mess, that's a massive battle that you are going to have to fight and win. So don't start with the most difficult battles to wage. Start with something simple. Oh, you know what? I'm going to clean up most of this mess, but you know what? His puzzles, I'm going to have him clean up. Or his books, I'm going to have him clean up. And that's the only requirement that you have. But start small, okay? Start with easy tasks that you can reasonably follow through with and make the child do. And once you do that, then you can start to build on those tasks, you know? But those are already going to be big battles because they're not used to listening to you. And when they're not used to listening to you, why would they capitulate? There's no reason for them to do it because historically, most of our kids have learned like, oh, I can get away with not listening to what my parents are telling me to do. Second thing that, the second mistake that most parents make is they do too much for their kids, okay? And it's normal, like that's normal. Like as a parent, you want your kids taken care of, you're looking for it. But in general, we do too much for our kids. We get food ready before our kids are even hungry. We put clothes on our kids before they're even cold. Okay? So what happens is that the child never actually has a need. They never feel really hungry. Why? Because before I'm even hungry, mom's already giving me food to eat. Oh, I don't even, when am I cold? I'm never cold because mom always dresses me in nice clothing before I ever feel cold. And so when we do too much for our kids, there doesn't create a need in the child to find ways to communicate, to find ways to express themselves. In the US, there's a saying called necessity is the mother of invention. Okay? When you have a need, it forces you to be more creative. It forces you to explore avenues you would not otherwise explore. When you are up against a situation where like, okay, all the things I know aren't available, it forces innovation. It forces you to try new and different things. And so that's an avenue that most parents are taking away from their kids accidentally because you love your kids, because you want the best for them. You want a safe, environment for them. You want to create a very safe and warm environment for them. But by creating that environment, sometimes you're taking away any need for them to do something. When you take away the need, there's no reason for the child to explore different avenues, to try different things, because there's just no reason for it. Another thing that we do in terms of over helping our kids is we do things for them they're fully able to do by themselves, okay? They might struggle with it a little bit, but ultimately they'll succeed. And what happens is that daily life kind of plays a hand, which is like, oh, I'm in a rush. And yes, you can put on your shoes by yourself, but what I'm going to do is, since I'm in a rush, I'm going to just do it for you, okay? And all of that stuff that we do because we're trying to get someplace on time because of the demands of our day and all those kind of things, what happens is that it leads to a dependency on us, and we're not actually promoting more independence on their side, even when they're fully capable of doing it themselves. How does over helping your child actually harm your child? It is through them not building the skills and the strength to do it themselves, and they're over relying on other people doing it for them. One of my favorite stories is like, oh, how a butterfly emerges from a cocoon. Okay? So, the caterpillar kind of builds itself a cocoon, and when it's time for them to emerge as a butterfly, they have to break out of the cocoon, and they struggle and they struggle and they struggle, right? Now, if you're someone who's like, oh my God, look at that poor butterfly. It's struggling. Let me help it out. Let me crack it open. Let me do this. Let me do that. And all through good intention, like, oh, you know what? I really want to help this butterfly out. I don't want his life to be more challenging, more difficult. So let me help break it out. Okay. What happens is that when you help free the butterfly and they don't engage in that struggle, they don't engage in, what happens is when the butterfly emerges from that cocoon, they haven't built up their muscles to fly on their own, right? So when you go and you do the breaking up of stuff, then those don't get developed. Now you've impacted this butterfly for its entire life because it hasn't learned how to be independent. It hasn't struggled to give itself strength. What we're not telling you to do is we're not telling you don't help your kids, okay? That's not what we're saying. However, there's a right amount of help that you need to give your kids, just enough for them to be successful and no more than that, you know? And a lot of times what we're talking about, there's an investment of time, energy, resources, always at the beginning when you're teaching the child something that has big long-term dividends, meaning like, oh, you know what? My investment of making you hold the fork or the spoon or the chopsticks in the correct way today, even though it's painful and it's hard and it's challenging, a year from now, you'll gain a level of independence and a level of skill set where I don't have to worry about it anymore and you can be independent with that task. Now, right now, it's going to be painful and I might need to break the task down, really work on it with you. But the payout is significant down the line in terms of the time, energy, resources that you have to do for any particular task a year later, 2 years later, 5 years later. And that's what we're talking about. A common analogy is of a person that is hungry, right? So you can either teach them to fish so that lifelong they know how to catch fish by themselves and feed themselves, or you can give them a fish, right? So giving them that fish that one time, yeah, they'll go and they'll be fine that one time. But for their lifelong, they're not going to know how to sustain themselves. So you grabbing the spoon and feeding them and doing all this stuff for your child helps them that one time that you do it. But it does not and is not in their best interest for you to do that for their lifelong, because are you going to do it when they're 5 years old? You're going to do it when they're 10 years old? Or are you going to do it when they're 15 years old? The third common error that most parents make is we give our kids too many chances and we need to set good limits for them. But oftentimes we feel bad, we feel guilty, we feel like, oh, I really want them to have this one. Don't make me take it away. And so we give them chance after chance after chance. And only when they keep on persisting, at some point we might actually follow through and do those kind of things that we need to do. All right, no, don't you touch it. No, don't you, I told you not to touch it. No, remember, I'm gonna take it away if you touch it one more time. And we keep on saying it and we keep on repeating ourselves because at the end of the day, like, oh, we feel bad when our kids don't get something, you know, like, oh, don't make me take it away from me. Don't make me take it away from you. And when we give them too many chances, they don't respect us. Okay, like, because at the end of the day, it's like, oh, whatever you tell me, I don't have to listen. Why should I listen? Because I can keep on going and I'll still get what I want. One more time means one more time. 5 more minutes means 5 more minutes. Okay. Don't do something means don't do it. It doesn't mean I'm going to give you 5 or 6 or 7 times to touch it before you'll actually lose something. Okay. And that's what you have to learn to be able to do successfully, which is set limits. Okay. Now, the funny thing is most parents can set limits, but they never follow through on those limits. Okay. So set those limits, but then you have to follow through. If I told you you can only do it one more time, once that time is done, it doesn't matter what you do, it's time for us to go. If I told you 5 more minutes, I give you the 5 more minutes on the playground, but when that 5 minutes is up, doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter what kind of misbehaviors you demonstrate, I'm taking you and we're leaving the situation. Piggybacking on what I told you earlier, do not give instructions you don't intend to follow through with. Do not threaten your child with things that you have no intention of taking away from them. Okay? So if you go to an amusement park and you spend hundreds of dollars taking your family on a vacation, don't say, we're going to leave if you do this, or we're going to exit, because you have no intention of doing it. Okay. If you threaten it, you have to follow through. It doesn't matter if we just got to the park, we just paid hundreds of dollars to walk in. I told my child, if they do this, we're going to leave. It doesn't matter if you don't follow through. So what is meaningful is don't threaten it in the first place if you don't intend to follow through. If you threaten it, make sure you follow through no matter how painful it is. So I think this is a good time to wrap up and go ahead and answer kind of any questions that people have. I think I didn't get a chance to wrap up all the mistakes that parents make. So that's what we're going to do in the next time that we meet is we're going to continue to talk about the common mistakes that parents make. Right. Thank you for joining us again. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to us talk. If you like what we say, hit the like button. If you want to subscribe. We would really appreciate it. And like always, we're very appreciative of any feedback that you have. We're always trying to improve. This is new for us. We're gonna keep on making errors here. Like today, the electronics failed us. So, but feel free to give us comments, and we look through them all and we consider everything. So please, like, follow, and then give us feedback. Great. We'll see you everybody next time then. Bye-bye.